Hello there, and welcome to Cujo Sound. And this is Game Audio Talk, a series of videos where I take a video game and discuss its sound design, and why it is the way it is, and what I can decipher of its implementation just by playing it. Today, I'll be talking a little bit about Dishonored 2, Death of the Outsider. A quick disclaimer here, this video might contain spoilers about the game, and we are not in any way trying to bash the game or mock it for its flaws or similarly. This is strictly to discuss the professional issues that occur during a game's development phase and for educational purposes. You got that? You got that. Let's get to it. Another very interesting issue that we have here is these dripping sounds. They do pretty well in creating a nice soundscape in this shower. Or this shower. In this area here. The interesting thing is that if you turn your back to them, they disappear. This can be for several reasons. One of them, of course, being that this is an actual mixing choice made by the sound designers. But more likely, it is happening because of occlusion, or the fact that the VFX simply does not exist if we are not looking at it. Notice here, where I am moving the character around the shower, how well the dripping sounds move around us and how they actually support the idea of a wet environment. Yet, as we turn our backs to it, it goes away. I assume that this is because of the actual dripping sound is directly attached to the VFX and the triggering of said VFX. Probably through some sort of visual coding script, but I obviously have no idea how the internal development system is and looks or how it works in this void engine, because it's not publicly available. I only know so because I've worked on other engines. But if said VFX does not exist, it means that the triggering of the sound will never happen. Several solutions can be used here. Say if we have an area like this one, the one that we were just in, and we add a basic 3D emitter to the center of it, emitting all these dripping sounds. This might actually work pretty well, because the sound will then constantly be playing and we will hear it as it is constantly audible. But if we have a VFX that occurs when a droplet hits the ground and we attach that sound directly attached to that splash to add some sort of syncing between the visuals and the sound, then if said VFX is never played because it's outside of our vision cone, the sound will also never play. This is actually an issue that we faced very much in Hitman Season 1 when I was working on that, when working on the Hokkaido level and the Shishiodoshi water fountain in the middle of the courtyard of that level. Because we wanted the sound of this fountain to constantly play, even if we were looking away from it, as a sort of audio landmark on this level, we would face the issue that the animation would not play if it was outside of our vision, meaning that we could not rely on syncing to the animation, simply because this would make the sound not play when not in vision, or actually stop mid-sound if we moved out of vision. But also, it would alter the timing of the sound once played, when we would then go back into having it inside our vision. So a sequence solution for us was not possible. This was solved by adding a timer to it, measuring the time between whenever the animation would play, and then when not playing, we would keep triggering the sound as if the animation was playing through this timer. Once again, when we then moved back to having the fountain in our vision, we would remove our fake triggering system and then go back to syncing to the actual animation. I imagine that this is the same issue here, that our player's vision is this cone here, and certain items outside of this cone is never rendered, leaving us with the problem that's said before, that sounds attached to a rendered VFX outside of our cone will then never play. Last but not least, here in Dishonored 2 Death of the Outsider, I actually managed to find a spot where a sound is being cut off once you move from one area to another. And this is partly the same issue that I mentioned in the beginning of this video that I found in the original Dishonored 2, depending on which angle you approach this specific area from. Notice the hissing sound of this steam pipe here.
Look at you! Trapped like a hound
I don't
in the
know who
pits.
you are, but stay
Open your
downstairs
masters will
unless
throw
you want
a
trouble.
bone shark.
And as I am in a different area and I move through this door, I believe that this is because set sound is only allowed to pass through certain amounts of gates, like 2 or 3 gates before reaching the listener, else it would be cut off by occlusion or marked as unimportant. And as we move through this specific gate here in this door, the sound may be trying to reach our listener through a different pathway than that of the direct one, simply because it's trying to not cut itself off, but it actually does the opposite. So the sound may be trying to reach us through a different pathway than the one that is right above us. I believe that this is because set sound is only allowed to pass through a certain amount of gates before reaching the listener, say 2 or 3 gates. The problem is that once we move through this gate, instead of changing the pathway so that it's coming directly from the emitter straight to us, passing through only 1 gate, it is trying to maintain its previous pathway, which is through several other gates, meaning that the sound will then be cut off as we move through this gate. And this is most likely the case. In the original Dishonored 2 game, the issue that I was mentioning in the beginning of this video was that a character's dialogue would be coming from the right and down through a staircase, probably through 1 or 2 gates before reaching our listener. And yet, if we moved to a room to the left, the sound would still be coming from our right, which would at that moment sound correctly. But it was then possible to get so close to the actual emitter that we would then suddenly be straight under the character, changing the pathway so that the dialogue would instantly shift from being a right-sided pan to being a left or middle-sided panning, making it quite obvious that the pathway was changed. This also made it possible to enter this room from specific angles so that you would then have the exact same issue that we have here, that if you pass through certain numbers of gates, suddenly the sound would be occluded and not be audible. And that was actually a problem because this specific dialogue was important to the narrative of this specific level. But the developers of this game probably have their reasons to set up a system like this, and this is most likely just a bug that could have been fixed in the development phase, yet maybe it wasn't found, or maybe there wasn't time to fix it. Anyway, thank you for watching this little episode of Game Audio Talk. I hope you enjoyed it and got a little bit of more insight on how occlusion and VFX triggering works when it comes to sound effects. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel if you want to know more about game audio. Or even better, if you want to support the channel, then please head over to patreon.com/Cujo Sound, where you for as little as $1 a month can help me sustain this channel and the time I take off to create all this content. Or you can even sign up for the mentorship program that I have over there if you need help with your current project, or you're at school or an aspiring sound designer that need help or mentoring from a game audio professional. Or if you have some specific questions about sound design and implementation that you need help with. I would really appreciate any support that I can get. Again, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you again another time on this channel right here. This is Cujo Sound and Bjørn Jacobsen signing out. Ta-ta!